Hey scholars, Miss Alicia here. Welcome back to my kindness corner. We left off on chapter 2, and Winnie had made it to Cisco. She was not very impressed. It was a very small town. Her first impression was not great. She went into a general store while waiting for her father to arrive, and she wasn't impressed with the general store either in their selection. But she went up to the counter because she was trying to decide what kind of candy to purchase, peppermints and black licorice, and she met a Chinese boy. We do not know his name, but I have a feeling he's going to show up some more in the story. So let's find out. Now she's with her father when we left off, and they were going to go to the lodging house, the hotel, Swanson's. So let's see, chapter 3. When Winnie woke up the next morning, it took her a moment to remember where she was. Her room at home had flowered wallpaper and 3 sunny windows. This room was painted green, and the one window didn't let much light in. There was a knock at the door. "Come in," she called out. Her father walked in. "Good morning," he said. "I hope you slept well." He glanced out the window. "Not much to see. There's no garden like at home." Winnie gave him a hug. "I didn't come here for a garden, Papa. I came here for you." He pushed a strand of her hair away from her face. "Then you should be more careful to keep this out of your eyes." "Oh, Papa." He smiled. "So what do you have planned for today?" Winnie's eyes opened. "I'd like to go into the tunnel with you." Her father sighed. "Now, Winnie, you know that's not possible. We can't have girls wandering around, getting in the way." "You'd let me go if I was a boy." "Maybe so, but you're not a boy, and that's that." Winnie sighed. Her father scratched his beard. "Anyway, I have a surprise for you." Winnie perked up. "You do? What is it?" "If I told you, it wouldn't be a surprise. You'll have to find out after breakfast." Winnie never remembered afterward whether that morning's cornmeal mush was any good, but her father made her eat it all. After she was done, he led her to the livery stable. A horse was waiting in a stall. "Goodness, Papa!" "He's yours to ride while you're here. His name is Handsome. His owner says he has a high opinion of himself." Winnie patted Handsome's mane. "Well, he should. Thank you, Papa." Her father cleared his throat. "Remember, not too much galloping till you learn your way around. And watch out for snakes. And don't go near the tracks. The men have more than enough to do without worrying about an audience. And as for—" "Papa, really?" He grinned. "I guess you get the idea. Just be careful." "Yes, Papa, I will." Winnie and Handsome spent a lot of time exploring. In some places they found rocks jutting from the ground like the bare knuckles of a hand. In others, the trees were so close the branches made a canopy over Winnie's head. Towards the end of the week, Winnie and Handsome came upon a crew from the railroad. Hundreds of men were filling a ravine with dirt. Some were busy shoveling. Others carted the dirt from one place to another. The faces of the men were mostly hidden under wide basket hats. Winnie knew that only celestials wore them. The man in charge was a tall, bearded man, bellowing out orders. He stalked up and down the line, prodding people to work faster. It's a little picture. Her, Winnie and Handsome. The Celestials, she noticed, cringed at his approach. Winnie noticed that several workers were not digging or carrying dirt. Instead, they carried around small kegs on poles on their shoulders. They walked among the others, stopping whenever someone wanted a drink from the keg. One of the keg carriers removed his hat briefly to wipe his forehead. "I know him," thought Winnie. It was the boy from the general store, the one who had bought the peppermints. "Morning, miss." One of the riding bosses had ridden up in front of her. "Saw you here on the edge. Wondered what your business was." I'm Winnie Tucker. My father, Eli Tucker, works for the railroad. Maybe you know him? He warned me about getting too close, but I didn't think I was in the way up here." The man nodded. That's all right then. We just like to know who's keeping an eye on us. Everyone here seems to be working hard, said Winnie. The man laughed. There's no stopping these celestials. They're just grateful, I guess. Grateful? Sure, miss. That, chi- that China they come from is a mighty poor country. So when they get here, they're happy to be alive and happy to work. Hennessy, the riding boss turned his horse. You'll have to excuse me now. The big boss is calling. He turned his horse. Coming, Mr. Strobridge, he shouted, and rode back towards the tracks. So that was Mr. Strobridge, Winnie thought. Her father had written to her about him. James H. Strobridge was the man in charge of the track construction. He and his wife lived at the railhead, the end of the tracks. Every time the tracks got longer, they moved. Mr. Strobridge was wandering among the Celestials, cursing and encouraging them by turns. Big and tough, he was twice the size of the Chinese worker. He looked mean, Winnie thought. Maybe it was the patch he wore over one eye, or maybe it was his black beard. Handsome snorted. Do you smell water? Winnie wondered. She turned the horse towards the pines. Beyond them was a gentle slope leading down to a mountain stream. Winnie dismounted. Handsome bent down to drink, and Winnie did the same. The water was cool and clear. It wasn't as warm in the shade of the pines. Winnie took out her sketch pad. She drew two squirrels playing tag in the pine needles. A rabbit sniffed at her. Then they hopped away before she could sketch it. Greedy chipmunk stayed longer after Winnie tossed it a biscuit she had saved from breakfast. The chipmunk scurried away though, as the celestial trudged towards the stream. He was carrying two empty pails. It's that peppermint boy again, thought Winnie. The boy had been looking down, but he had noticed her now. I do not mean to disturb, he said. I have come for water. Winnie waved at the stream. My horse and I have left you some, she said. The boy frowned. Left me some? Winnie blushed. Never mind. It was a joke. Ah, the boy nodded. I'm not always good at jokes. Winnie smiled. Me neither. We have met before, I think, said the boy. But I did not truly introduce myself. I'm Lee Chen. I'm Winnie Tucker. I'm glad to see you again, Winnie. I have not thanked you for your wise advice. Advice? Lee smiled. Tasting winter in your mouth. Oh, you mean the peppermints. That's something I used to say when I was little. Lee wiped his forehead. On a day like this, it is nice to have winter in your mouth. Winnie smiled. Lee turned suddenly. Someone was yelling in the distance. Winnie heard the words too, but they made no sense to her. She didn't know Chinese. Lee filled the pails quickly. I must go, he said. I do not want to get in trouble. Like the other day, said Winnie, nodding. That storekeeper sure was mad. What had you done anyway? Done? I mean, before I came in, to make him angry. Lee shook his head. I had done nothing. It is just his way. I am used to it. I don't understand. Why? I'm Chinese. That is enough. Lee picked up the pails. I must go now. I take too long for the water. He stumbled back up the slope. Winnie frowned. She had never thought about what being Chinese would be like. But she would not have liked being yelled at just for having blonde hair. The chipmunk was chattering at her. It had come back with a friend. Now that I do understand, she said, and threw them another piece of biscuit. Okay, sounds like Lee is facing some racism, which happened a lot during the build of the railroad. A lot of the Chinese immigrants, they were paid very low and they were not treated very well at all. Super sad, but we can learn from history, and hopefully we will stop repeating history and everyone will realize that people are just like everybody else. It doesn't matter if they come from a different race or background. They want the same things in life and they deserve fair treatment. All right. I will see you guys back for chapter 4. Bye, scholars.